Hey. Hey, look who's here.
Good day. How's it going?
Got my little friend with me this morning. My wife's sleeping in a little late, so babysitting duties fell on Daddy. So Dylan, say hi to YouTube. YouTube, say hi to Dylan. Anyway, this week on Camera Talk, we're going to be looking at macro photography. Kind of taking pictures of tiny things. Not quite so tiny, but something similar. We're going to be looking at taking pictures of small things. And I've got a couple macro lenses that I'm going to be looking at this week. One is the EF-M 28 millimeter. Goes with my Canon M50 that I'm using to shoot this video with. The other one is my my Tamron 90 millimeter, and you know, it's a macro. It's only a 1:2 ratio, but you know, still considered a macro. So that's what we're going to be looking at this week. So why don't you join Dylan and I? See, he's not going to join us for the rest of the video, but just for the intro here. But anyway, so come on down and we'll look at our macro photography this week. So let's get it on. Okay, do your finger thing. Do your finger thing. Go. Yeah. Ah.
Here I am, Vietnam.
This is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott. All right. Just as Dylan and I explained in our intro, this week we're going to be looking at macro photography. And of course, macro photography is all about shooting small things, little things, tiny things, or just close up of bigger things, but getting focused in on a particular section of that big thing.
That's what she said.
Well, we'll give you lots of examples anyway, just so you know what we're talking about. But when it comes to macro photography, we're pretty much looking at two things: magnification, how enlarged something is, and the second thing is the distance from your subject. You know, how close or how far are you working away from the subject itself. So those are the two things that we're going to be kind of focused on. Anything else, and really when it comes to distance as well, one of the things you have to keep in mind is the focal length of the lens that you're going to be using. I have two macro samples that we're going to use as demonstration purposes today. One on the short end is my Canon 28 millimeter f3.5, and it's an EF-M mount lens. It goes on my Canon M50, which normally records these videos because it's a great little video recorder. And which means today we're recording this video on my A7R II Sony. So I'm going to be talking about the macro 28 millimeter, which has, you know, a great little close-up capability as the 28 millimeter, but it has a super macro capability, which lets you get in even closer. So there's some cool things about this lens that I'm going to be showing you. And my other one, which is on the longer end, is my Tamron 90 millimeter 2.5. And you know, again, just as I said, the longer the focal length, the greater the distance. This little lens here can get as close as 9 millimeters, so that's 0.9 of a centimeter. So 9 millimeters, that's pretty darn close. The macro capabilities and close focus for my Tamron is 39 centimeters, which is still pretty close, but you know, there's a big difference between this and this. So that's what, you know, that's what I mean by the longer the lens, the greater the working distance. It means you got to go further back from it. And the other thing with my with my Tamron 2 is that it's not a 1-to-1. This is a 1-to-1 ratio, which means real life. You know, when what you see is what you get, versus a 1-to-2, which is half. You know, just like think of fractions. 1/2 is half, right? But the super macro on here, it's just bouncing back and forth here. It's like a tennis match.
Well, there we go. Let's just, yeah, let's carry on. Oh, that's good skill. Look at this. Fabulous. Oh, he spoilt it.
The super macro here actually gets a 1.2 times magnification on it, so it goes beyond 1-to-1. So again, this little sucker here does some pretty cool tricks.
Silly rabbit tricks are for kids.
So anyway, that's what I want to talk about today. You know, it's the macro thing. So again, my 28 millimeter against my 90 millimeter. You know, again, while we're talking about, you know, ratios, the 1-to-1 is ideal, and that's on a full frame, of course. 1-to-2, which is half. 1-to-4 is you know, 0.25 times. You know, so again, it's just like fractions, as I said in math class.
Why I hate math.
And then the 1-to-10 ratio is 0.1 times magnification, and etc. Along it goes. So you know, again, I don't want to dwell too much on the tech stuff about all this, but on a full frame, you know, this is a full frame. This is my A7, the original full frame mirrorless. The A7 has a full frame 24 megapixel sensor, and so when you're dealing with macro, because the depth of field decreases as your magnification increases, so it makes it real tough to keep everything in focus. You know, if especially you're zooming in on a bug who's facing you, you may have the bug's eyes and face, you know, or head or whatever, if you call it a face, whether a bug has a face or not. You know, you might see the eyes bulging, but the rest of the bug may be out of focus, maybe fall off. You know, again, because of the magnification, that depth of field is not as deep at all. So the way to compensate for that is either stopping down. So in a full frame sensor, you know, you stop down between f16 to f22. On an APS-C sensor, between f10, f14. On a micro four thirds, which I don't have, it's more like f8 to f11. You know, it's how because due to sensor sizes, that's where you stop down to get that longer depth of field to be able to get at the entire insect or flower or whatever it is in focus. So again, it's just tougher to do. So why doesn't everybody do macro photography? Well, one, due to interest, of course. Some people really don't give a poop about close-ups of things. But those who do and think that the small world has some pretty cool things to see, make for some cool photographs, they may get discouraged because it's not easy. I mean, getting in close, especially on an insect, you know, just when you get it in focus, you think you're good to go, and all of a sudden, whoop, off it goes. You're like, damn, all that time you spent on it.
They suck. They just suck.
Or it may move slightly. And again, because that depth of field is so shallow, all it takes is for it to move just a tad, and boom, it's all out of focus and everything, and you got to refocus and back and forth. So really, practice is kind of what makes perfect, as they say. You know, it's kind of like using rangefinders or the same thing. You know, you're not going to just pick it up and know what to do. Everything you got to practice. So macro photography is the same thing. You practice on things that don't move, for one thing. You'll move very little, like flowers or tree branches or you know, just things you find on the ground. Why not your lens cap, right? Put your lens cap down and practice focusing in on it. just to get the hang of it. Now you can also use various tools to help as well, using a tripod for one, keeping things pretty steady, using flash photography, which means you can raise your shutter speed, because again, you stop down to f16 to f22, there goes all your light, right? So you're gonna have to compensate for that. And if you're going to speed up your shutter speed to be able to stop motion, that's going to be pretty tough to do without another artificial light source. So flash is the other thing to do. You can do focus stacking as well. Of course, I'm not going to teach you that here, but focus stacking is taking multiple pictures at various depths and then putting them all together as a final product, so to speak. So you can look up other YouTube videos about focus stacking on how to do that. But and the other thing too is manual. I mean, this is a manual focus lens anyway, whereas this is an auto. But manual focus tends to give you more control, because just using your using your fingers to focus is much more accurate, because you can see what you're focusing in on, versus an autofocus. You may choose where you're focusing, and then all of a sudden something might move in the scene, and then the camera determines, oh, let's focus on that instead, and ends up focusing on the third leg or the wing or the antenna or something else on the insect instead of the eyes, which you were originally focusing on. So manual focus is the way to go. So let me talk about these individually. Actually, since I have this in my hands, let's start with the Tamron. Again, this is a 90 millimeter 2.5. This is an excellent lens just for macro, but this is a great portrait lens too. I've used it a number of times for portraiture. And it's a pretty sought after lens because it is so good for portraiture as well as macro photography. It's an older lens, obviously. This is the mirrorless cameras are relatively new. This lens, 1979 to 1988. I do believe, before they came up with another. This one's all metal construction. Before they came up with another updated version, which is all plastic. Really, this is the 52B. The 1988 version is a 52BB, double B. This one's more sought after. It's built like a tank again. It's excellent. The specs on it, eight elements in 6 groups. As I said, it's close focus is 39 centimeters. It has 7 aperture blades, which has in common with this one. They both have 7. And because it's all metal construction, it's a little on the beefy side too. It's 410 grams, so it's got some heft to it. So you know that you're feeling it. Now, as much as it's this episode is all about macro, I do want to still give you a sample of what it can do. What it can do as far as focusing in on the end of the lens. Now, as I said, I was using my A7R2 to videotape this today, and I'm using a 24 f2 FD mount Canon lens, 1970s lens. Again, another great piece of a kit from the past. But let me do my usual just to show you. Actually, let me get it wide open here at 2.5, just to show you the capability of this lens. So I think that should be it right there. And 1, 2, 3. All right, so I'm going to show you that shot here. And also some shots of Dylan as well, as I always use my son Dylan as a as my little model. Aww. So here are some shots of Dylan with the 90mm at f2.5. And let's move on to, well, no, wait. Ooh, trying to trick me there, weren't you? Because this is a macro episode, let me show you some macro shots using the 90mm right here. Okay, I'll get that out of the way. Let's move on to my cool little 28mm here. Now, as I said, this is an APS-C Canon, what is it, M50 model. Now, they have a Mach 2 version out now. This is the original M50. It has, as you can see, well, you probably can't see from here, but I'll show you a close-up picture of it. The lens hood is pretty tiny. You wouldn't even think that it is a lens hood. I mean, it's pretty tiny. So, but it does the thing. You know, it covers what's expected of the protecting from flare and whatnot. So it does surprisingly well. Again, let me get a shot of the 24mm lens in here. All right, so 1, 2, 3. Okay. So that was just as a 28mm. Here's some shots of Dylan using this as a 28. And here's some shots of some close-up stuff using this as just the 28 close-up and as the super macro, which is 1.2 times magnification. So very cool stuff. And to top that all off, what else is cool with this lens that no other lens does? This is actually the best bang for the buck as far as macro lenses go in the whole Canon lineup. But again, what's cool is there's a little switch on the lens itself with a little light bulb. But watch what happens on the front of the lens. Isn't that cool? Look at that, huh? It's got its own built-in ring, and you can brighten it, or make it less bright. You can switch from one side to the other if you only want to light half the scene from one side, and you can make it bright or not, and you can switch switch to the other side. It takes me a while to play with these things. I don't play with them every day, so. But anyway, it's pretty cool. So that is the capability of this particular lens. Kicks this lens's butt when it comes to the features, what it can do. So, again, I highly recommend for those who are, again, that's why we're here at Modesty Photography, to save you money, to teach you little tricks and tips of the day type of thing. But again, for a budget camera and lens setup, I mean, these things, the camera, itself is, especially the Mach 1 version, this one, maybe $400, $500. The lens itself is maybe $400 or $500. So again, what you get for this is pretty darn good bang for the buck, so to speak. And if you get them used, which is even better, that's how I buy everything, except these. I bought these new because they were new at the time. But everything else is used. This is used, this is used, that's used. Camera shooting, this is used. All of these lenses here are used. That's the way I like to buy things. I don't want to spend a lot of money on something that I can get a better deal on. Why not, right? And I can sell a lot of these things for a decent price compared to what I paid for them, especially Leica stuff. I could sell that exactly for what I paid for it.
$1 million.
But anyway, so that was, again, that was the macro photography points that I wanted to make.
So, what are you trying to say?
All right. So that's all I got to say about macro photography. I mean, we could talk about other number of things, but try to keep the minutes down here. I don't want to make this a 2-hour episode. So anyway, recommendations. I would highly recommend this 28 EF-M if you have an M mount camera. But if not, and you have any other mount, I would recommend the Tamron, because with an adapter, and this has an AI, because the Tamron has a Nikon mount, so an AI to NEX adapter, and it fits on my A7 and my A7R2. Works wonders, no complaints at all. So highly recommend getting these if you want to, try your luck at macro. Don't go out spending thousands and thousands of dollars on this setup and then figure out macro may not be for you. So have fun with it. That's really all it comes down to. Have fun with it. Practice, and you'll get better at it sooner or later. So anyhow, that was it for me. So what else can I say? How about software editing? Luminar AI, soon to be Luminar Neo. It's a cool bit of software. Ultra economical compared to some of the other ones that are out there. Some of the more name brand, expensive ones. That's what I use for all my editing. And if you want to save $10, there's a link down below. You can save $10 there. It's worth it. And even if you find something you like better later, oh well, you didn't invest much money in anyway, so you're not losing anything. But it's also yours for life. So it's not like you have any monthly fees or yearly subscriptions or anything else. Other than that, how about you support my channel and subscribe? That's right. Trying to get me exposed out there to the world, to get more people, tuning into my videos. So subscribe. And, why not tell a friend or tell your significant other who has a YouTube account to subscribe. That's right. Help out Dr. Scott. And so give us a thumbs up too, because here's the thumbs up girls. And last but not least, stay safe out there. It's COVID world. It's a whole different genre of living nowadays compared to a year and a half ago. And We'll refer to those as the good old days sometime, I'm sure, if people aren't already. We're just coming out of our lockdown here in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, so that's good. Even though my next semester, I'm a university lecturer, so my next semester is still online for a few weeks. Then we're supposed to get back into the classroom again. So I've got my double dose of AstraZeneca. So, you know, hopefully everything will work itself out in the end. If not, oh well, we all gotta die from something, right? Just kidding. No dying. Anyway, come on back for next week and we'll talk about something else. And you stay safe out there. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you in the next video. All right. Bye-bye.
Here I am, Vietnam.